Thank you for coming back, folks. Our next presenter is Jessica Marshall from Brisbane, Australia. Her research is titled Living Laudato Si, Integrating Ecological Consciousness in Education. Jessica, Assistant Principal of Religious Education at All Saints Parish School, explores how Catholic schools can foster ecological understanding, drawing from Laudato Si, the Mercy tradition, and the First Nations Ecological Wisdom. Jessica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayette, for that warm welcome. And it's an honour to be here in Catherine's first classroom. Hello to the Mercy world. Firstly, I respectfully acknowledge the Turrbal people on whose land my research was conducted, situated north of the Brisbane River in Queensland, Australia. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and the young leaders of tomorrow. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather here in Dublin, and the First Peoples of all nations represented among us today. May we walk gently, respectfully, and humbly upon this sacred land. My purpose is simple, yet urgent: to reflect on how education can inspire ecological conversion, shaping young people who are not only learners, but also caretakers of creation, advocates for justice, and builders of hope. Imagine a world where every community, no matter its size or location, has access to clean water, thriving ecosystems, and sustainable resources. What steps must we take to make that vision a reality? How might our world be transformed if every person and every community truly committed to caring for creation and pursuing justice with urgency and compassion? The ecological crisis is not a distant threat. It is our current reality. Last year, we experienced the hottest year recorded. Carbon dioxide levels are at their highest in 2 million years. Glaciers are melting at record rates. Coral reefs are bleaching globally, and extreme weather is becoming more severe and more frequent. In southeast Queensland alone this year, we faced a cyclone, flooding, rare snowfall, record high winter temperatures, and even an earthquake just 2 weeks ago. Climate displacement is rising worldwide, and the poorest communities, those who have contributed least to the crisis, are suffering the most. Australia, my home, bears particular responsibility with some of the highest animal extinction rates and per capita emissions in the world. Despite decades of international agreements and scientific consensus, the gap between what is promised and what is delivered remains dangerously wide. The Paris Agreement, adopted in 2015 at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, is an international treaty signed by nearly every country in the world. Its goal is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees, ideally 1.5 degrees. We are not on track to meet that target by 2030. The latest UN Sustainable Development Goals report shows that our window for meaningful change is rapidly closing. The urgency is clear. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg calls it the defining issue of our time. She reminds us the climate crisis is not just about environment. It's a crisis of human rights, of justice, and of political will. Sir David Attenborough, a lifelong advocate for the natural world, echoes this truth. A species can only thrive when everything around it thrives too. As a Catholic educator, I feel a deep responsibility to respond, not only as a citizen, but a person of faith. Our church calls us to ecological conversion, to a transformation of heart, mind, and action that honours both the sacredness of creation and the dignity of all life. As the Assistant Principal of Religious Education at All Saints Parish School, Brisbane, Australia, I am privileged to help lead a community grounded in the values of faith, learning, and compassion. When I began my research, I found myself deeply immersed in a web of ideas with far many tabs open, reading numerous articles and books, watching videos, and even discovering past conversations from the UN climate change events. What began as an exploration soon became a profound learning journey. Climate change, ecological collapse, sustainability, Indigenous knowledge, all interconnected and all urgent. I do not claim to be an expert or even a greenie. However, through this experience, I certainly know more than what I did a year ago. And I know this, Earth is crying out. 10 years have passed since Laudato Si was published. And while its message is louder than ever, the question remains, where is the action? And what can I do in my sphere of influence? In 2015, Pope Francis gifted the world and all people his encyclical Laudato Si, a landmark document addressing the global ecological crisis. It calls us to embrace what he names integral ecology. In this 10th anniversary year, it is my great privilege to advocate and contribute to the legacy of our late Pope Francis. Choosing this focus for my research was an easy decision, driven by critical importance and hope. Integral ecology means that everything is connected. The health of our rivers is connected to the health of our communities. The cry of earth is inseparable from the cry of the poor, and our spiritual lives cannot be separated from how we treat creation. Laudato Si invites us to a profound shift of heart and mind, a conversion that recognises creation as sacred and caring for it as a moral duty. My research project, Living Laudato Si, Integrating Ecological Consciousness in Education, was born from this call. It explores how Catholic schools can embody an ecological vocation that integrates faith, justice, and sustainability. This work was guided by Laudato Si, the Mercy Charism, and the ecological wisdom of Australia's First Nations peoples. Pope Francis writes in Laudato Si, "Many things have to change course, but it is we, human beings, above all, who need to change." He calls us to daily acts of conversion, turning off unnecessary lights, reducing waste, choosing sustainable transport, planting trees, and showing care for all life. These may seem small, but he reminds us they are powerful and meaningful. In 2016, Pope Francis proposed that caring for our common home be recognised as both a spiritual and corporal work of mercy. Spiritually, it invites us to prayerfully contemplate God's presence in creation. As a corporal work, it calls us to practical action. This is a radical invitation and one deeply aligned with the mercy tradition. In conducting my research, I was challenged to reflect on how we listen and learn from those who have cared for Earth for millennia. In Australia, we are blessed with the wisdom of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, whose knowledge of country spans over 65,000 years. Their sustainable practices and spiritual connections are both deeply ecologically and profoundly theological. For First Nations peoples, country is not just land. It is family, identity, and story. It holds language, law, memory, and spirit. To care for country is to live in right relationship with self, with community, with earth, and with the Creator. This is not something to merely admire from afar, but a way of being, to learn from with deep humility. Importantly, these traditions also teach climate resilience, ways of reading the land, adapting to change, and sustaining life in fragile ecosystems. Resilience in this view is not only about survival, but about living well in harmony with creation amid challenge. As a non-Indigenous researcher and educator, I approach these perspectives with reverence and care. I recognise that I speak about knowledge that is not my own, and that this comes with responsibility. Listening to Indigenous voices, seeking guidance, and creating space for truth-telling are essential steps towards reconciliation and ecological integrity. I honour our First Nations people's deep connection to country and give thanks for their care and custodianship over thousands of years. We have much to learn from their ways of living in right relationship with Earth as they walk this sacred ground with wisdom and care. This research has also deeply been shaped by the vision of Catherine Macaulay. Her commitment to justice, her courage to respond to the cries of the poor, and her belief in the transformative power of education provide a strong foundation for ecological action rooted in mercy. Catherine saw needs and responded. Mercy calls us to care for creation. Environment, society, economy, politics, culture, spirituality, all interconnected. A just and sustainable world must uphold the dignity of all creation and prioritise the voices of the most vulnerable. Education then becomes not just a place of learning, but a place of transformation. Our students are growing up amid climate change, biodiversity loss, and rising anxiety about their future. Schools cannot ignore this reality. The UN SDGs also affirm that education and awareness are vital to addressing environmental challenges. The good news is we have immense power. Every classroom, every subject, every schoolyard can sow seeds of ecological awareness. Pope Francis reminds us, true education makes us love life, and it opens us to the fullness of life. This project showed that even primary school students can develop ecological awareness, empathy, and agency. Ultimately, this research affirms that education is one of the most powerful tools for ecological conversion. By nurturing a generation of hope-filled, environmentally conscious students formed by faith, Indigenous wisdom, and the charism of mercy, schools can help build a just and sustainable world for our common home. The work ahead is vast, but I hope that my contribution, however small, might guide and encourage others in their own spheres of influence. Before we hear directly from the students, I want to acknowledge the work of the students and their teacher, Annalise Barkham, whose dedication, creativity, and openness brought this research to life. Their enthusiasm for learning and their commitment to caring for our common home shine through in everything you're about to see. Throughout last year, this class engaged in cross-curricular learning where Laudato Si was meaningfully embedded across subjects. They explored environmental responsibility, Indigenous perspectives, and sustainability. They engaged with Catholic social teaching and reflected on how faith calls us to care for our common home. Learning was interactive and practical. Students created posters, wrote prayers, analysed news reports, kept journals, and took part in hands-on projects, both at school and at home. In the final phase, they recorded their insights. The video you're about to see was shared with our wider school community at a whole school assembly. The students wanted their learning to reach beyond the classroom walls and inspire others to act alongside them.
We are always limiting our landfill by using the Containers for Change system. It is important that we educate ourselves on the environment. We reduce electricity by monitoring heating and air conditioning. The only thing in nature that you leave is your footprints, no rubbish. During hot days, we leave water out for native animals. I always turn off the tap when brushing my teeth to ensure that I do not waste water. Use your water wisely. Sunlight is a renewable source of energy, meaning that we'll never run out of it. Solar power has a positive impact on the environment by converting sunlight to generate electricity rather than using the grid.
I care for creation. Drive less, bike more.
I care for the environment by ensuring that we use reusable bags instead of repurchasing each time. At home, we sort our garbage into rubbish and recycling. This will help the environment. I show stewardship by picking up rubbish in the community. At my house, we use compost bins to help limit the amount of landfill. This one turns our food scraps into liquid fertilizer for our garden, while the other one turns the nutrients from our food into rich soil to help our vegetables grow, both of which help the environment. This is the liquid that comes from our liquid compost bin, and it helps all of it grow.
I see leftovers in the fridge and limit the amount of food wastage.
As I have noticed in my lunchbox, my yogurt is being sealed in a plastic bag. A yogurt, like an item or other food that is already sealed, does not need to go in plastic bags. Plastic is harmful for the environment. An alternative is beeswax, which is much better. Thank you for watching. After we've brushed our teeth, we need to remember to turn off the tap nice and tight so that we don't waste the water. And remember that some people in the world aren't as lucky as us.
I always use reusable water bottles, no matter what. So if this is empty, you don't ever have to get a new one. You just fill this one back up.
I make sure that waterways are clear from pollution by picking up any rubbish I see while I'm walking. Every time I see rubbish at school, I pick it up. In fact, I can see some over there. At my house, we use leftovers wisely. I could throw them in the bin, but instead I'm going to give them to my guinea pigs, Royal and Potato.
Their reflections show a deep care for God's creation and a conviction that small actions can make a big difference. What begins in the classroom can ripple out into families, communities, and the wider world. These students that you just heard from are now our Year 6 leaders, with some serving in our school's Creation We Care ministry. In their leadership role, they promote sustainable practices, whole school initiatives, and inspire their peers through word and action. They are living examples of mercy. They call us to act not later, but now. They remind us that the future belongs to them, and it is our shared responsibility to protect it. Let's take a moment to see their journey throughout the year.
I'm also very passionate about caring for our common home, the earth. I even wrote a letter to the Environmental Minister at the age of 6, sharing my idea on how to save the Great Barrier Reef using solar power. There's been other initiatives that I would like to continue, such as the pen recycling program and the Containers for Change programs. I already do Containers for Change at home, so it would be an honour to do it for the school. In my opinion, it's important to create brilliant new initiatives, but also be the person to continue the great work of leaders before me. God created the earth, and it's important to look after it for future generations. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, students and teachers. I would love to be one of your Creation We Care leaders for 2025, as I appreciate our environment and want to sustain its resources. I'll start by telling you why. First of all, our environment's ecosystems are being rapidly destroyed throughout Australia, with 75 million, yes, million tons of waste produced each year. I want to change that and help our school make an impact. I like to think I'm a kind person to everything around me, whether it be people, plants, or animals. I show them compassion, which is exactly what our environment needs, compassion. I also have other qualities great for the role, like being a natural leader, which is a good quality for getting people on board and excited about new initiatives. I also think I'm quite observant, meaning I can notice small problems and find out resolutions before they become bigger and more detrimental. I have so many ideas about ways to help improve and look after our school and its environment. I'd also love to find new ways for you, the students, to help. For example, we could bring back garden club or even the compost bins, and then we'd have a use for the compost and you could all help as well. We could also celebrate Clean Up Australia Day with our school and focus on picking up litter throughout the day, when possible, of course. I'm sure as an All Saints community, we can come together and come up with so many more ways and initiatives to help clean up our school's environment and the environment around us. I admire the work of past leaders and hope to inspire you to do so at home as well. I hope that you can work together towards creating a better environment at our school.
Hi, I'm Eve,
And I'm Piper.
and we're the Creation We Care leaders for 2025.
Come and have a look at what initiatives we've started this year. There's more to come. Today we've planted all our herbs in our herb garden. Here we have oregano, parsley, basil is beechwood, we've got mint, and then we've also got some coriander. And Eve will tell you about the marigolds.
Okay, so hi, we're planting marigolds in the herb garden as a companion plant, which means we won't have to use pesticides because they'll shoo away all like the caterpillars, bugs, etc. so that it's organic food.
One of our initiatives this year has been to restart our compost. For this, we ask students to collect any of their food waste and put it in these bins. Then we take their food waste and we put it in this big compost bin, and once it's decomposed, we spread all of the soil over our gardens.
Another initiative Piper and I have started up this year has been the Containers for Change program. When this program is in action, students are encouraged to put their poppers and bottles in this bin as long as they have 10 cents on them. Each popper or bottle that goes into this bin is then recycled and raises money, or 10 cents, as it says on the bottle, for our school. Most of the money we put towards our garden.
So as you can hear, the voices of our next generation are central to this work. Their example shows the impact of education as they step forward to lead our school with authenticity and courage. This research also involved connecting with teachers and assistant principals to explore how ecological education is being, or could be, implemented in our schools. To support educators in this work, I have developed a comprehensive Living Laudato Si education handbook. The handbook is built around the pillars of head, heart and hands, encouraging critical thinking, emotional engagement and practical action. The resource aligns with the Australian curriculum's cross-curricular priority of sustainability, but is adaptable for global contexts. Rooted in Catholic social teaching, the Mercy tradition and Laudato Si, it offers a roadmap for integrating ecological discipleship in meaningful and manageable ways across all learning areas. This practical, faith-based resource is designed for Catholic primary schools and includes curriculum-linked learning activities and resources grounded in the Mercy charism, Laudato Si and Indigenous wisdom, cross-curricular ideas to embed sustainability and ecological thinking, resources to support the religious life of the school, suggestions for student-led advocacy, action and advocacy, and leadership in ecological justice, and guidance and resources for school leaders to begin or strengthen a whole school approach to ecological conversion with whole school strategies for social action, formation and prayer. Importantly, it is designed as a starting point, an invitation for educators to grow and evolve as their schools deepen their commitment to integral ecology. It offers both inspiration and structure while encouraging creativity and contextual adaptation. Teachers are free to build upon the ideas so they reflect the unique identity and needs of their communities. This is not presented as the answer, but as a practical resource to support busy schools in this vital work. Of course, challenges exist. Competing demands, curriculum overload, limited resources, tight budgets, and the perception of ecological projects as extras rather than essentials. To move beyond this, schools must be deliberate, embedding ecological education in a strategic action plan, so that initiatives are not ad hoc, isolated, or dependent on individual champions, but instead become part of a sustainable whole school culture. Catherine Macaulay reminds us that a good beginning is of great importance. With intentional planning and a collaborative spirit, solutions are within reach. Professional development to equip teachers with confidence, partnerships with organisations and First Nations leaders whose wisdom and custodian of country offer invaluable guidance, and collaboration across schools to share resources and success stories. The key is not to see ecological education as one more thing, but as the way we do education. Pope Francis reminds us, all it takes is one person to restore hope. We are those people. Educators, advocates, mercy leaders. We have the power to raise awareness, to discern wisely, and to teach with courage. Through the choices we make, the way we teach, and the culture we cultivate, we can help restore balance to our common home. In this anniversary year, marking a decade of Laudato Si, may we renew our commitment to ecological conversion and to a future grounded in mercy, justice, and hope. Let us listen deeply to the wisdom of Earth and to the voices of First Nations peoples and to the dreams of our young people calling us forward. This is our call, to act in our homes, our schools, and our communities, to learn about the ecological crisis, to listen with humility, and to ask not only what we can do, but also what our communities and governments must do. Our task is to nurture a generation of change makers, those who will one day shape policy as politicians, discover solutions as scientists, inspire minds as teachers, and lead communities with courage. The Holy Word says, the Lord God took man and woman and put them in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. This highlights our duty of care for the environment as an integral part of our faith. Pope Francis reminds us that ecological conversion is not optional, but a moral imperative. Education is one of the most powerful tools we have to form young people who are spiritually alive, ecologically responsible, and ready to lead. Inspired by the teachings of Jesus and the vision of Catherine Macaulay, we walk together with courage, compassion, and conviction. As pilgrims of mercy and hope, may we journey with hearts open to change and hands ready to serve, striving for a future that cherishes the beauty and integrity of God's creation, and inspiring future generations to become seeds of peace and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. And I would like to restate what you have said. Imagine if all peoples will truly care our common home. What could it be then? For me, it's paradise here on earth. That's a very hopeful future. Thank you, Jess, for inspiring us to really bring ecological justice both to classrooms and to the larger communities. Thank you. Do we have questions online? Yes, thank you, Angela.
We have a couple of comments, Jess. So from Sandra Lupi, great research and collaboration, Jess. I really hope you get to share this with other schools. Thank you for your commitment. And from Sister Suzanne Ryder, Jessica, climate warming is undoubtedly the most urgent issue of our day. You do well to illustrate this so vividly. Indigenous peoples certainly are a source of wisdom. Children also have a valid voice. May we listen to your voice as you share your vital message. Go, Jessica.
Thank you.
And then, truly inspiring, Jess, a powerful presentation. You have done Australian Catholic educators proud. I look forward to using your handbook to inspire the children and teachers at my school to respond to the urgency of caring for creation. Well done. And then from Anne Chambers, nothing inspires hope more than seeing children so passionately committed to this cause. Jess, our future will be in better hands because of this valuable work with education and our students. Excellent work, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Yes, Sarah.
Well done, Jess. Sarah from South Africa. Just a comment first. I think this is a remarkable resource and you've clearly shown what it can do. I think one of the hardest things is people not even knowing where to start, and you've provided us that this is where to start. And in terms of budgeting and restrictions and things like that, if one looks far enough, and plans far enough in the future, things can happen. So you've given that to us, so thank you. My question is, have you shown this to other educators at different schools, and what has their response been? I know you're busy working on a Young Mercy Leaders program, so maybe that's something you could implement there.
Possibly. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, it can be so daunting and overwhelming, and it was certainly through my research that I found that even the children are finding it overwhelming. They're hearing it in the media, they're hearing it at home, and we do need to do something about it. And it is so broad, and I have learned, as I said, so much over the last year of research that, yes, I did have far many tabs open up on my computer screen, because you go to one place and then you find something else which leads to something else and you end up down the rabbit hole. So it was my vision to create something that can help teachers. Schools are busy places, they're stressful places, there's lots of burdens, and I'm a teacher at heart, and I always want to support teachers in the work without giving an extra addition. But that does need to be strategic, and that's what I hope that I have put into this research as well, that it does need support from leadership. You can't just have one person, you need a team of people to do that. Through the research, I certainly touched base with teachers and assistant principals when I was creating the resource, initially to test the waters to say, would this be helpful? And people said, yes, it would, because teachers like resources and having something to go from and not just to reinvent the wheel. So yes, I did show them, and they seemed to be excited by the prospect. And I showed some assistant principals once I had finished it and created it to show, this is the final product. and I got really positive feedback. So I'm hoping that it does support people and help people to be authentic in the way that we deliver this education, that it can then evolve into home and our communities. So thank you.
Lucia, please.
I'm Lucia from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much, Jessica, for the good work you are doing. At least planting that tree in children to care for the environment. My question is, as they care for the environment around the school, what connection do you have so that at least they can connect whatever they are doing at school and take it back home so that it can reach the larger community around them?
Thank you, Lucia. I want the education to start from when the kids enter school, ideally even when they're in childcare beforehand, about caring for creation. It's no good with education to have one lesson or one unit about this, because that's not going to embed it into them. So the resource is created from prep to grade 6. It could also then extend into high schools as well. But if the children are hearing this knowledge and information from many voices, then they're going to be hearing it constantly. So I feel that, and then they know that then it's an important thing that they need to be acting on. Myself, I learned so much in this last year, so I know that parent education would also then be important too, because if I've learnt much this year, then I'm sure that there's parents around the world that also can learn about the crisis and what we can do. And it can be daunting and overwhelming of where to start, but the children said it for themselves. You can start with such a small thing, and certainly the videos that I showed were of them doing that at home, and so they've already started that. And I think that knowledge, they're sponges. Kids are sponges. And they want to take in that knowledge, but then also act with it.
Thank you. Additional question online?
Yes,
Go,
so
Angela.
we have a comment from Tanya Munro who says, Jess, you are such a great role model and a true advocate for the environment. Your passion and commitment inspire those around you, and we are so fortunate to have you at our school. This resource is outstanding and will be well used in many schools. Thank you for your strong advocacy and leadership in this area. Another one says, thank you, Jess, for such a powerful presentation that embeds Indigenous people's ways of knowing, being and doing to address the ecological crisis. For those outside education, how could this resource be used? And I think you've said a little bit about that already. Do you want to add anything?
I think, while it is certainly for education, I think there's certainly ideas that are, well, particularly my research project, probably not the handbook as such, though there's probably ideas in the handbook that people can use outside of education. But the research part of my, the written part would have lots of ideas and certainly quotes and resources that people in the world can use. I know the Laudato Si action platform is a place that people can go to that's not purely about education, and start an action plan, which is a good place to start, is through action.
Thanks. And one more comment from Alexis Stevens, a former fellow and now on the board of MIA. Very inspiring presentation, Jess. I look forward to reading the full document. Thank you.
Thank you so much.